What's happening there, YouTube? Genji here, and welcome back to our Season 2 playthrough of StarRupture. Now that we finally have access to just about all the tools that we're going to need to get our large-scale manufacturing online, I think we're finally going to get to make some progress today, but we have one more tool that we need to unlock first, and that is the dispatcher and receiver, which we can take care of just by plopping some synthetic silicon manufacturing down here on the end of the line to make that delivery to Clever Robotics Corporation. But before we hop into that, I do want to cover a little bit more information on one of the tips I gave at the beginning of the last episode. After the last video, I had some people asking for more information about pillars and stacking in Update 1 here, so I'm going to quickly place down a series of pillars here, each one pillar higher in height. We're going to go over quickly exactly how much each of these different stacks can support, and some more things that you can do with pillars in Update 1. Let's see, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go all the way up to 7. Which is actually going to require an additional supported platform at the bottom here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So let's start all the way here at the bottom. So if we place a platform on top of this platform and extend out to the maximum length that we're allowed to have on this first pillar, we can have up to 5 adjacent tiles of support from a single pillar. Now, every time you go up in height on pillars, the range of support drops by 1 tile. So at 2 pillars, we have 4 platforms of support, or tiles of support. At 3, we have 3 pillars of support. At 4, we have 2. At 5, we have... Oh, camera's getting a little funky. We have 1. At 6, we have technically 0. Like, this can only support something that's directly on top of the pillars. And at 7 pillars, it cannot support anything at all. Not even a single platform. Now, the number of tiles supported at the very top of the pillar stack is not the whole story, because even this 7-high pillar stack, even though it can't support any tiles at the very top of the pillar, it can support 5 tiles at its first pillar, 4 tiles at its second pillar, 3 tiles at its third pillar, 2 and 1, and so on and so forth. However, you do have to actually first place the item that you're trying to support adjacent to this pillar before this pillar will be able to support it. So let me give a little deeper explanation of what I mean by that. And to do that, I'm going to expand on the example of the triple stacked V1 solar panel tower that I demonstrated in the last episode, because I found between episodes that it's actually possible to stack a 4th in that tower. So we're going to begin by placing 4 supported platforms here. In this arrangement, we're going to leave room, a 2x2 grid here in the center where a solar generator V1 would fit, but we're not going to place it yet for a reason that I will explain in just a minute here. So instead, we're going to put 4 platforms, or pillars, onto each one of these platforms. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And at this height, each one of these pillars will be able to support 1 adjacent tile. So between these 4 pillars, we will be able to fill in each one of these tiles that the V1 solar panel will need to have supported in order to place it. So as long as we can click and drag a platform through the footprint of the building that we want to build, then we know that we're going to be able to place it here. So if I grab a solar generator V1, we'll lock our Z, place it right here. There we go. Now, in order to fit a 4th on here, we're going to exploit a little issue with the bounding box for these V1 solar panels. So ordinarily, these are, I believe, 14 tiles high. If I start here, and I start scrolling up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. See where it switched from building is colliding to building is not stable? That means that were we to have pillar support here, we'd be able to place another V1 solar panel above this solar panel, so their bounding boxes are no longer colliding. However, if we go down instead of up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we're able to place another solar panel 8 tiles below an existing solar panel, whereas we can only place a new solar panel 14 tiles above an existing one. So what we're going to do is space out, or count out 8 units of height below this solar panel, and then at each 8th unit, we're going to place another solar panel V1. So we're going to take a supported platform in the back here. We're going to go to the height of our existing platform here. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this one we're going to go down by 1, 2. We'll stack up some pillars on this. 1, 2. I believe that's correct. We'll place a platform here. And then here we're going to place a pillar support, place another platform, so that we have this arrangement here. And each one of these platforms, because we're only at 3 pillars of height and 2 pillars of height here, each one of these should be able to support a 2x2 grid directly in front of it, which is all we're going to need for our solar generator. So if we place another solar panel here, this is 8 units of height below this solar panel, and then another solar panel here, this is 8 units of height below that solar panel. We should then also be able to place another one here, which is another 8 units of height below that. And now, once these are placed, you see how these tiles now have this kind of wedge shape that locks into the adjacent pillar. That means that these 4 tiles are now being supported by these pillars. And the same here, these are being supported by these pillars. So these pillars still only have their normal amount of support. So at 3 pillars of height, this would have 3 adjacent tiles, but because this footprint is inside that 3 tiles of support that is offered at this height, we can actually come to the back here and delete these original pillars that we used to qualify this placement in the first place. And now these solar panels will only need to be supported by the adjacent pillars. And there you go. So we only need these original 4 pillars that were placed. And now if we were to try to delete any of these pillars, we would actually be deleting the solar panels that are being supported by them. Now, one other thing to note is that because each of these solar generators is anchored into these pillars at these heights, so this one is at 4 pillars, this one's at 2, these now become extensions of these pillars' ability to support tiles at this height. So as long as we have 2 adjacent tiles of support going from the front and the back of these solar generators, we can actually put additional solar generators onto these pillars without having to build new pillars. So we can put solar generators here and solar generators here because they're within the footprint of adjacent tile support offered by these pillars. We can do the same here, and the same here, and so on and so forth. Now, it's hard to say just how long this will be supported for or if things will change because they have been doing some adjustments to the way pillar supports and structural calculations work. So for example, if I place a few pillars here and I put a platform on top of this, now we know that at this height, at 3 or 4 pillars, we should only have 2 or 3 adjacent tiles of support. So for example, we can do 1, 2, we can't place a third, but we can for some reason place all the tiles. So there's still some funkiness going on here, and then if we were to delete this platform, we're left with some additional just floating ghost platforms. So there's still some funky issues that I think will get patched out. So I don't know if we'll be able to stack 4 solar panels forever, but it's valid right now, so we're going to continue using it while we have the option to do so. I also want to make one adjustment to the way that we're feeding in items into our intermediate building material mega press here. Because there are 40 basic building materials required for each cycle of this intermediate building material process, and because those 40 basic building materials are sharing one incoming line with all of the other materials that are coming in here, I'm going to just break off our basic building materials into their own rail and bring it up top here just so that it fills a little bit quicker. So we're going to place a rail connector here. It can be at full height because this is, again, the end of the line here. We'll place a rail connector here, a rail support here, another rail support up top, and then one more right here. We'll break this feed here, and we'll just have this one rail for everything except building materials, and then we'll bring these building materials in on their own rail. From here to here, up into here, across, and in. There we go. Now they should have their own dedicated rail. I don't think it'll get this up to 100% efficiency because even with a fully loaded V2 rail, we're not feeding in enough items per minute here to get 40 basic building materials in here inside of 6 seconds, but it will dramatically increase our efficiency, so we'll get our intermediate building materials just a little bit faster. I'm going to pick up a handful of these, or trade out this partial stack for a full stack, and I'm going to go start unlocking dispatchers and receivers. Alright, so just to refresh our memory here, so for Clever Robotics, level 7, cargo dispatcher, cargo receiver, we're going to need to deliver synthetic silicon and or heat-resistant sheets. So we have everything that we're going to need to make synthetic silicon except for the manufacturer that actually makes it, which I believe we had the blueprint for. It should be Furnace? Furnace. So we do have the synthetic silicon blueprint. We just need to deliver 600 calcium powder, 800 ceramics, and 2,000 helium-3. So let me go scoop all this up. We'll unlock this. We'll plop down some temporary manufacturing for silicon until we can unlock level 7 here, and then the cargo dispatcher and cargo receiver will allow us to finally start building our independent satellite bases that we're going to use for all of our high-level construction going forward. Okay, and here's our final 200 ceramics, our blueprint for synthetic silicon, and 600 data points, and we have access to synthetic silicon. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait until after this rupture to set it up, but we'll be back up in just a minute. One of the patch notes in today's hotfix was that they had fixed an issue that was causing quartz to not spawn in caves. So I'm going to revisit a couple of these caves that had no quartz in when I visited the first time and see, yep, okay. So there's at least 3 other caves in this area here by our helium base that are now going to have some quartz in them when there was no quartz before, so I'll grab those as well. Alright, let's see here. So we want to be making synthetic silicons. I'm going to place a couple of temporary furnaces here at the end of our line, and we're going to pull our materials that we need off of the back here. So we're going to need ceramics, we're going to need calcium powder, and we're going to need helium, which is not on our storage back here yet because we don't have dispatchers and receivers unlocked. So I'll put another one right here, I suppose, and we'll feed these through a couple of machines here. So we'll do 1, we'll do 2, feed these forward, feed these to the right. I guess I don't technically need this. Let me just put this into a storage depot. V2, as we have access to now, for a little extra storage. Run this into here. And then 1, 2, and an OCL V2. Which we're going to need rail connectors on the backside for. Actually, well, no, we will need it because we're just on the cusp of our build area here. There we go. So we'll set this up to manufacture synthetic silicon after dumping our helium into here. Helium-3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 should be more than enough. We're making synth silicon. Synth silicon. Here come all of our materials. And then we'll set this up to deliver to Clever Robotics synthetic silicon, which is more valuable than heat-resistant sheets anyway. So we'll let this run in the background, and then once we have these unlocked, we'll be ready to start, I guess, moving towards or building towards our final high-level constructions here, because I want to, because this is not going to be like a build everything factory, and we're actually going to be building specifically towards the high end this time, we're going to set up each of our satellite bases to manufacture at least the amount of material that we're going to need to build whatever the highest level item in the game is currently, which I think is like RTSC generators. I'll take a look at the tech tree again. But we're going to start, instead of just like incrementally adding on to things as we go up each of the tech tree items, which is going to require a lot of backtracking and redesigning our factories. I think we'll just plan our factories from the start to be able to support the endgame items, and then we'll already have everything that we need available to us when we hit each of those new tech tree tiers. Okay, and while we're waiting for that to deliver, I'm going to start a little side project here for getting around the map a little bit easier. So trying to go east on the map is actually blockaded in the central area by this mountain range here. So you either have to divert way down south or way up north to get around this, to get towards the world engine and everything down to the southeast here. So I'm actually going to make a zip line that just goes right up to the top of this mountain. And then we can use the peak of this mountain as kind of a travel hub to zip down from whatever side we need to get to. So that'll give me something to do while I'm waiting for this synthetic silicon turn-in. There we go.
Robotics has received its order.
We were just about done.
Waiting for you in the corporate terminal that should help you work faster.
We'll grab that in just a minute here, because we just reached the peak here. We can look over the side towards the Forgotten Engine, and this will be a nice jumping point to get us to kind of wherever in the map we want to go on this side. And get up here and make sure this angle isn't too steep on these lines here. There we go. So we're going to want to build a base core. Put it right here at the tippy top. And then we can put a little platform here that'll act as our nexus, if you will. There we go. Like so. Let's make sure we can get a zip line up here. Seems like it. Let's make sure we can actually ride this. That's the wrong way. I was looking this way, go that way. Okay, it's valid. So we'll worry about our destinations when we figure out where we're going to want to go. We're definitely going to want one going towards the Forgotten Engine. It'll give us some quick transport back and forth when we're doing the Forgotten Engine quest. But we're definitely going to want to get to some of these titanium nodes around... Oh, they're way off in the distance there. We can't even... So that's Copperfield, right? Yeah, so there's a nice sulfur deposit here. We'll definitely want to tap into some of these pure titanium nodes here. I think there's one right down here somewhere. And then probably a couple over there. So yeah, this will give us quick access to this side of the map without having to run around the mountain every time. Close enough. Alright, let's deconstruct all this. As you can see, I did end up having to put a dedicated line in here for helium, because trying to fit 3 onto a V2 rail was just a bit too much, 3 independent materials. So I just ran a separate line up here just for the helium, and that was enough to keep these furnaces running efficiently. So we'll tear all this down, and then we'll go claim our prize. Alright, hand it over. Cargo dispatcher, cargo receiver, claim. And next we're going to need super magnets and hardening agents for the roundabout rail connectors, which I've had some ideas on what this might be useful for. But we're going to have to get a little bit further into the tech tree before we can get to that. But the other thing that level 7 Clever Robotics unlocks is access to rail V3s. So we need to build a little bit more length of drone rails, give it 100 quartz ore, and then we'll have access to rail V3s, which will be the final piece of our puzzle for balancing the maximum number of materials per rail for doing build and ratio calculations. So we'll definitely want this before we get too deep into our mega factories. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to want to do is set up delivery of helium back to our intermediate building material manufacturing line. So I'm going to start by taking down all these V1 storage depots, since we now have access to V2 storage depots. So we'll plop down one of these. I suppose here, because we're going to want this to be in contact with our solar panel. We'll feed one into here. We'll feed one into here. And I would like to have had V3 rails for this, since we're going to have to do a little recalculation on how maximizing the output from receivers in order to saturate a V3 rail at 480 items per minute is going to work in Update 1. But since we don't have access to V3 rails yet, we'll have to temporarily just set up any kind of delivery of helium back to our manufacturing line. So we'll take one for now with a rail V2 into here. We're going to set this storage depot to helium 3 again and feed it in as much of this as we can. There we go. And then we'll set this up. We'll call this HE3 Helium TX 1, I guess, because we'll certainly have some more in the future. Confirm that. We're going to be distributing helium 3. We don't have any receiver set up yet, but the nice thing about the way that dispatchers and receivers work in Update 1 is that you can now set up this connection from the receiver end. So we'll go back to base, we'll build a receiver, and then we won't have to trek back out here again to set up that connection. Okay, so let's get rid of this V1 storage depot. That was our temporary input here. Just keep in mind that it was this connection right here that we were using. Now I'm going to place down a cargo receiver. Right here.
Cargo dispatcher and receiver are two devices that work with each other.
You don't say.
You can send items between two distant points. This will surely help expand your production.
We'll call this Intermediate Building Materials, IBM, HE3 RX. I guess we don't need underscores here. We can just do a space. Confirm. We're going to set up a connection to available. Here's our TX. We'll create this connection. And we should, within 20 seconds, we should receive some helium 3 here, because the dispatchers now, instead of waiting for a full stack and then sending 10 seconds later, the dispatcher logic will send whatever it has in its inventory every 20 seconds. Like so, here it comes. Now this does change the calculation, because previously you could link up multiple... Yeah, there's the line's backed up, so there's not requesting any helium 3, but there you go. So as you can see, there's now, instead of having 3 slots for materials in the receivers, there's now only 1, because you can only have one dedicated transmitter to a dedicated receiver. You can no longer assign multiple dispatchers to a single receiver. So you've gone from essentially having a throughput from each receiver of 960 items per minute, which is 480 out of each side of the receiver. You now have a throughput of roughly 300 items per second, because you get one full stack of 100 items every 20 seconds. So that's 3 full stacks every 60 seconds, or about 300 items per minute. So we're going to have to use more dispatcher receiver combos overall versus the early access version, but we should have no problem balancing these items to fill a full rail on the receiver side. So now that we have this set up, we no longer need to hand feed helium into this system here. Let me check my pockets here. We still have 780 intermediate building materials. So let's go back to base. Let's take a look at the production chart for some of the highest items in the game, so we can get an idea for what our factory setup is going to need to be like to be ready for that. So looking here in Rupture Planner at the new materials for Update 1, we have here the RTSC generator created in a facturer. And this is going to require not only 926 buildings, which is going to be a doozy, but this is going to require, if we trace this all the way back to the beginning of the tech tree here, you can see how many of our basic ores we're going to need. So we're going to need 2,943 wolfram ore per minute, 1,777 calcium ore per minute, and 3,360 titanium ore per minute. Now, the number in the corner here, if you didn't watch my 100% scanner efficiency video, this is the number of each of these buildings that it's going to require. So, for example, we'll need 52 smelters and 37 fabricators. But for ore excavators, these are calculated using a 60 item per minute output. So basically, if the ore excavators were all built on impure nodes. So while this is 57 impure ore excavators, if we recalculate this at 3,360 divided by, let's say, 240 is the output that we get out of a pure node. That's going to be 14 pure nodes worth of titanium ore. And this is just using the ore excavator 1. We also have the option of unlocking ore excavator V2s, which should increase the total output. So we don't need 57 ore excavators. The number is considerably smaller. But I think that's where we're going to get started with the tech tree here. So let's take a look at the map. We're going to look at the StarRupture map here in StarRupture.tools, which is going to give us the ability to filter by specific qualities of resource nodes. So for example, we want to see just pure titanium nodes, we want to see just pure wolfram nodes, we want to see just pure calcium nodes. And this will give us an idea of where we're going to want to set up our initial resource acquisition. And basically, we're going to want to put our ore extractors in the areas that have the highest concentration of items per minute that we can get a hold of. So, for example, this valley here has multiple pure titanium nodes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pure titanium nodes in one area, plus a scattering of other impure and normal titanium nodes. So we'll definitely want to hit that for titanium. We'll want to hit these locations here for pure calcium ore. And then for wolfram, we actually can get a few right here close to home. So there's 2 pure wolfram nodes right here next to our helium extraction base. That also has a smattering of other impure and normal wolfram nodes right here. So we're going to visit each of these locations, slap down some initial ore excavators, and then use dispatchers and receivers to funnel these into a central processing location where we can convert all of these into bars and begin to work our way back up the tech tree again. Here's all the missing quartz. And some more. Okay. Yes. All right, so we were able to hit the caves that didn't have any the first time around, and the caves that we missed in our last outing. And that netted us 75. We'll take these. We'll see if we have time for maybe one more, or if we've hit the end of our time limit. Okay, let's see. Do we have enough for V3 rails? We have literally just enough. Amazing. All right, so well, we know where this is going to get spent. We're going to go to rail V3s. We need to drop in some more drone rail. We have 100. We have almost enough. See me all of it.
That's just what I need.
You're telling me. All right. Stick the rest in here. We do a 40. There we go. 3,000 data points. So we just need to build about 800 meters or length, whatever the default unit of measurement is here, of rails, and we're ready to unlock rail V3, so we're going to need to really scale, or to even begin to experiment with how we're going to manage balancing all of these items into our mega factories. So we're just going to take a rail support, run this as far as we can in one direction. Turn it around and run it all the way back. There we go. Rail V3 task completed. Let me tear all this down. Well, actually, let me leave it up just in case, and we'll go claim our reward. Here we go. Rail V3 research. Incredible. And this is going to cost us 3x intermediate building materials, which is why we got our intermediate building materials factory online first. So now we'll tear all this down, and then we're going to head out to our first titanium node location. Okay, and as you can see, I've added a new track here to our nexus of rails here at the top of the mountain here, and this is going to run all the way down to that titanium location off here in the southeast side of the map. So let's head back there. Whoop. Oh. Just a minute. Okay, let's see what we have here. So for those of you who watched my 100% scanner efficiency video, you're probably familiar with this location. This has a ridiculous number of titanium nodes here. We can see 2 pure nodes here, a couple of pure nodes here. I believe there's also 1 pure node over here, but just a ton of available titanium ore. So what I'm going to do is we'll probably set up 2 locations. I think is how I did it previously. So we'll set up 1 here, and we'll set up 1 over here, and we're going to accumulate, we're going to gather all this titanium ore together. And before we ship it back to be manufactured, we're going to do a little exploration, a little calculation with these new dispatcher receiver combos to see what we have to do to get a reliable 480 items per minute out of our receivers on the far end. So, first step is going to be to set up a little base here. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is balance the output of these ore excavators onto individual sets of rails. So with the rail V3s, we have a capacity for 480 items per minute. I'm going to place a rail connector, say right here, and right here. Let's take a look at these ore excavators. So if you're not familiar with how the node purities work in StarRupture, this is a pure titanium node. It's going to give us 8 titanium ore every 2 seconds. This is compared to, I believe these are impure nodes here, so this is an impure titanium ore node. It's going to give us 2 every 2 seconds. So these are going to provide us at 8 ore every 2 seconds, that's 240 ore per minute, versus 2 every 2 seconds, which is only going to be 60. So since we have a maximum of 480 items per minute on a V3 rail, it means we can string up to 2 pure titanium nodes together. So 240 and 240 will give us a total of 480. We're going to combine these two, and we're going to bring this down into a little test setup here so we can play with our dispatcher and receiver. Okay, we're bringing a little power into here. I had to put the solar panel all the way back here because I guess in this location we're not getting any sunlight, even though it's clearly in full sunlight. If we put a solar generator V2 down here, and I try to place it anywhere in this flat area, it says starlight obstructed. So that's a new feature in Update 1. If you place this in the shadow of a mountain where the Ruptura's light is blocked, you will not get any power there, so I'd have to put this back a bit. At any rate, let's place down a storage depot V2 to accumulate some of this titanium ore here that I'm going to need to move stuff back and forth between these dispatchers and receivers. So we'll let this fill up. And full. Okay, so I'm going to cut off this line for now, because I don't want this to fill back up once we take stuff out of it, because I want to run a little experiment here. So I'm going to grab as much of this as I can fit in my pockets. And the first experiment I want to run is going to look a little something like this. So here's our first experiment. During the 100% scanner efficiency video, I found while building the factory for that I was running multiple lines of machine outputs, so multiple 480 item rails, into a storage container to buffer the outputs of those machines before sending them into a different manufacturing stack. And I noticed some strange behavior that it only seemed like one of the strings of machines would ever unload into the storage depot at a time. So one of the things I want to check here in Update 1 is if I have 4 independent 480 item rails, so I have, in this case, 4 storage depot V1s filled with titanium ore, each connected via a V3 rail into a storage depot V2. If I connect power to this, will these empty one at a time into this storage depot, or will they all send over their items at the same time? And that will let us know whether or not storage depots or storage and machines in general have a hard cap of 480 items input, even if they have multiple 480 item input rails. Okay, so everything is moving at what appears to be 480 items per minute. So we can exceed the 480 item cap that we apparently had in the early access version. So that's good to know. I'm also going to repeat this experiment with a V1 storage depot just to make sure it's not a feature of V2 depots. And that does not appear to be the case. Okay, for this next experiment, I have 3 sets of dispatchers and receivers set up around a V2 storage depot. So the idea is that we have a full depot here that's going to be filling up each of these dispatchers, moving those items into these receivers, which will then collect into this V2 storage depot. And the point of this is that I want to see how many of these dispatcher-receiver combos it will take to guarantee a continuous, non-stop, fully saturated V3 rail between this depot and this depot. So I'm going to turn on one of these sets of dispatchers and receivers at a time until we no longer see any gaps. We should see a non-stop flow of items out of this depot until this depot is completely emptied out. Okay, I think we're ready to test now. So in early access, the dispatchers would wait until they received a full inventory of items, and there would be a 10-second delay, and then the items would be dispatched to the receiver. But in Update 1, if I set TX1 here to accept titanium ore, and then we link it to RX1, there's a 20-second timer on this now, and we're already beginning the dispatch sequence. So the dispatchers will now send whatever they have in their inventory every 20 seconds. But there's an additional delay on top of that. So if I position myself here so I can see both the transmitter and the receiver, as soon as this hits 100%, this takes off, but we still don't have any items coming out here. So there's an additional like 7-second delay before the drone will actually arrive at the receiver and begin sending out items. So even though it says 20 seconds, there's actually more like a 26 to 30 second delay here. And obviously you're only running one receiver here. We're going to find that these items run out. And then there's a significant delay here between when the next load arrives. So we want to clear up that gap there so that there's never a period where we're waiting for items to arrive to supply this particular rail here. So let me set up TX2 here to accept titanium ore and to dispatch to RX2. So this will begin filling up. There's RX2. So we have 2 feeds going into the storage depot. Our output line is still saturated. It looks like they might be. We'll take an actual eye on the numbers here, because the visuals of the drones themselves can be a bit misleading, because sometimes the V3 rails move so quickly that you don't see the drone on the rail even though there's an item being transmitted. So basically we want to make sure that this stack of titanium ore never drops below 0. And it looks like we're actually gaining titanium here, so now we have a second stack building up, so I think this might be enough. 2 receivers, both being fed independent 480 item rails. It seems to be more than enough to fully saturate one output rail without any downtime or gaps. So basically what we'll need to do at each of our raw ore excavation locations is piece together as many pure nodes as we can. So if we can get 2 pure nodes, that'll give us 240 plus 240 is 480. But we can also piece together whatever other smattering of less than pure nodes as long as they add up to 480. So we can do 4 regular nodes. That'll give us 120, 120, 120, and 120, which will add up to 480. Or 8 impure nodes, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, 60, will add up to 480. So our goal is to just add up as whatever combination of nodes as we have available to us to produce 2 independent 480 item rails, which will then go into 2 drone dispatchers, which will then be received by 2 drone receivers at our actual manufacturing location, and then combined in order to guarantee that we have 1 fully saturated 480 item rail. So in this particular location, we have 2 pure titanium ore nodes over here. We have 2 pure titanium ore nodes over here. That'll give us 2 fully saturated 480 item rails, which we can then feed into 2 dispatchers. So we'll go ahead and set this up. We'll set these to titanium ore to buffer this input right here in front of our dispatcher so that we're not waiting for stuff to be transmitted from all the way up there. We'll set these to What do we want to call these? Titanium ore TX1. Titanium ore TX2. Oh, we also have to set these to accept titanium ore. Accept titanium ore. Perfect. And we'll be able to set up the connection to the receivers when we actually place the receivers. But for now, we want to get these just set up and ready to dispatch. So we'll let these load in the background while we travel over here. The other two, or the other 4 nodes that we have here, 1, 2, 3, 4, these are all impure nodes. That only gives us 240 items. So while we can make use of that somewhere potentially, we're not able to fill an entire V3 rail with that amount of ore. So we may have to wait until we unlock the version 2 ore extractors, or we find some manufacturing process that doesn't require a full 480 items per rail. But for now, we're just going to leave those unconnected. Let's head over here to the other side. Alright, so on this side of the river, we have 2 pure nodes over here and 1 impure node. And on this side, we have 1 pure node and 3 normal nodes. I think it's 2 normal nodes and 1 impure node. So we have to make as many combinations of basically 16 as a shorthand, right? Because pure is 8 per cycle, 8 every 2 seconds. Normal is 4, and impure is 2. So we want to add up to 16. So either with 2 pure nodes, we have 8 and 8. That'll give us a full 480 items per minute. With normal nodes, we have 4, 4, and then if we had another 4 and 4, that would be 16. And then with the impure nodes, we have 2 and 2. So we would need 8 individual impure nodes, 8 2s, that'll give us 16. So we want to add up as many of these as we can in order to provide 16 or 480, however you prefer to think about it. So we do have an additional 1, 2, 3, 4 impure nodes over here. We have 240 items per minute over here, or 8 total. And then over here, we're going to have 1 full rail here. And then we're going to have 8. And we can actually make another full rail here with 8, 12, and 16. So that leaves us with an extra 2, 4, which is unfortunately not enough to add to our existing 8 to add up to another 16. So we have an extra 12, or an extra 360 items per minute, which we'll probably leave disconnected for now, but we have available to us if, again, we come up with some kind of manufacturing chain that doesn't require a full 480. So we're going to link these 2 together, and we're going to link this one and these 2 together into another 2 full V3 rails full of titanium ore and get them set up with dispatchers. There we go. So we'll set these storage depots to accept titanium ore. Titanium ore. We'll set the dispatchers to titanium ore TX3. And titanium ore TX4. We'll set these to accept titanium ore. And there we go. So now we have 1,920 titanium ore, but these are actually going to be condensed again on the receive side. So we're actually going to have these 2 are going to condense into 1 single 480 item rail. Those 2 are going to condense into 1 single 480 item rail. So we actually only have 960 so far. So we're going to have to expand our search for more titanium. Next up, we have a cluster of titanium nodes right down here, directly in front of the Forgotten Engine that should total up to 960 items per minute. Now let's hop down there and set up some more dispatchers. Alright, so let's take a look at what we have here. So we have 1 pure node, which is next to 2 normal nodes. So we have 8, and then 4 and 4 is 8. So between these 3, we have a full 16, or 480 items per minute. And then over here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 normal nodes. So this is 4, 8, 12, 16, which we can then tie together to form another 480 items per minute. So we have 2 full V3 rails worth of titanium here, which will combine into dispatchers here, and they'll become another single V3 rail, 480 items per minute on the other end. So let's get that set up. All right, we'll slap a little power on this. One solar panel should do it. There we go. I see excavators turning. We're going to call this T or TX5. Right? We had 2, so this would be 5. T or TX6. We'll set these for titanium ore. And these are ready to be linked up later on. Okay, back up at the mountaintop here, there's another set of titanium ore nodes right here to the southwest. We're going to hop down here and set up another set of extractors and dispatchers here. Okay, let's see what we have at this location. So we have one pure node here. It's going to give us 8. We have a normal node here. It's going to give us 4. This is impure, which is 2. We have another normal node, so here's another 4. So if we can combine this pure and these 2 normals, that'll give us a full 480. And then we have an additional 2 impure nodes that will leave disconnected. So we can pull another single 480 rail here. There we go, up and operational. So we'll set this to titanium ore. We'll set this to titanium ore TX7. Titanium ore. All right, on to the next one. Next up, directly south of that location, through this kind of sulfur field here, is another set of titanium clusters down here. And if we pop into drone mode here, we have a number of them up here on the top of the cliff, and then down here below, there's actually another pure node here, and another, looks like maybe a normal node right next to it. So we're going to put ore excavators on all these and then tally up what we have here. Alright, so I can't go down in here because it's irradiated, but just based on the visual, this looks like a normal node. So we have 8 and 4 is 12. And then the rest of these are all 4s. So we have another 4 here. We can combine these 2 4s and this 8 to make 16. So there's a full 480 rail. And then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 makes a second 480 rail. So we have 2 full V3 rails here. So we'll get those dispatchers set up. Connect this. Connect that. We'll make this titanium ore TX8 and titanium ore TX9. Except titanium ore, titanium ore, and there we go. Next up, southeast from that, we have another cluster of titanium nodes right here. It looks like these are all going to be normal nodes here. We're going to get these set up. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll give us 480. This one's going to be T or TX10. Set to titanium ore. Moving on. Next up, way out here to the west, on the very edge of the radiation belt to the west, this is actually a bit north of the orbital lander where you start the game. We have another set of titanium nodes up here with 2 pure nodes, as well as a smattering of looks like a normal node, and a normal node. So we'll get these hooked up as well. So we're gonna have a total of 16. 4, 4, and 4 is only 12, so we're only going to be able to take 1 480 rail out of these. This one will be T or TX11. Set this to titanium ore. Moving along. And then back to the northeast of that. I took a southerly route, but you can also go north around this mountain here. There's another patch of titanium nodes here. This one has another pure node here, as well as what looks like a normal, a impure, an impure, and a normal. So we're going to have 8, 4, and 4. This is going to be a 480 right here. And then we're not going to have enough between 2, 2, and 4 to create another one. So we'll take these 3 right here, and we'll make another 480 rail out of these. And this one will be titanium ore TX12. Hey! Set this to titanium ore. Okay, northeast of that, kind of through our original helium base area and up to the north, we have another set of titanium nodes here. One pure node and 2 normal nodes, so this should combine to make 480. So we'll get these hooked up. Okay, titanium ore. We'll set this up as titanium ore TX13, and we'll need one more. And for last, just on the west side of the giant build crater that we did our scanners build in, there's a series of titanium nodes here along the wall, one of which includes a pure node. This is a normal node, and I can't quite see what the other 2 are, but they're right over here. So we're going to join these together. We only need another 4, so even if these are both 2, this will be just fine. So we're going to connect all these together to make our final 14th 480 dispatch. Okay, here comes the ore. We're going to set this to titanium ore TX14. That should be the last one that we're going to need. We'll set this to titanium ore, and we're ready to receive. So let's figure out where we're going to collect all of this ore into and set up our smelters to turn all of this into bars. And I think for this we'll reuse the giant build crater that we use for our 100% scanners build, because we're going to need the most space for this particular facet of it, because this is going to require the most number of buildings. So let's take a look. Let's just make sure before I get started here, if I pop down a cargo receipt, well, if I pop down a base core first, and then a cargo receiver, that we have available. I probably should have put a leading 0 on these, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, that's everything that we're going to need. So, what we're going to do is set up pairs of cargo receivers, and those cargo receivers are going to combine their outputs together to form a single uninterrupted supply of 480 items or 480 ores per rail. Those rails will then feed into 8 smelters, which will completely consume that 480 items per rail. We're going to repeat that 7 times, right? Because you have 14 of them divided by 2, or pair them up by 2, and we're going to have 7 sets of 2 receivers feeding into 8 smelters, and that should give us 3,360 titanium bars, which should be more or less exactly what we're going to need for way down the line manufacturing these RTSC generators. So let me figure out where we're going to align this and what these stacks are going to look like, and I'm probably going to have to clear out all of these vermin over here. So let me back up in just a minute here. Okay, so this is the configuration that I think we're going to go with here. We have 2 cargo receivers, which are going to combine their outputs and feed a line of 8 smelters here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each one of these 8 smelters has a 1-tile gap in between it, as well as our 2 receivers. We're going to use those gaps to put in our pillars to put a 2nd and 3rd deck on this. So we're going to repeat this construction 3 times vertically. So it'll give us 3. Then we're going to repeat this whole thing a 2nd time here. That'll give us 6. And then we'll do 1 more row here, which will give us a total of 7 for smelting titanium ores. So to put our extra decks on here, we're going to have to start at one side and work our way down the line one at a time. So we'll start here at the end. We'll put our supported platform at the height of our lower deck. We'll go up by 1, 2, and 3. We'll lock our Z level here, and we're going to put 1 pillar at all 4 corners here. We're going to take a pillar support, bring this up by 1. And we're going to put a platform on top of each of these. We're going to go back to a supported platform. We're going to put 1 at the height of the lower deck in these 2 middle holes here on either side. Then we're going to go back to pillar support. We're going to put in 3 pillars on top of each one of these. Like so. We're going to take out another cargo receiver. We're going to put this at the height of our second deck here. And you'll notice that as soon as this gets built, these 2 little wedges on either side snap into these pillars. So these are now, this middle deck is now supported by both the original pillars and these middle pillars here. So that means that we can now delete these original pillars in the corners. 1. And 2. And we're going to replace these in the front and in the back with supported platforms of the same height and arrangement as the middle pillars. So at the height of the lower deck, and then 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you notice as the pillars are built adjacent to them, this middle deck will snap into it again with a little wedge shape. So this is now being supported by the new pillar here. And we'll repeat this in the back. Take out the smaller pillars. Replace these with a platform at the bottom, aligned with the lower platform, and then 3 pillars on top. 1, 2, 3. We'll then cap off each of these sets of 4 pillars with 4 platforms. Come on, find the magic pixel. There we go. And now we can place our 3rd level drone receiver, cargo receiver, right here. Okay, and then we can start repeating this process on the next item here, the next building. So we'll go back to our supported platforms. We're going to put 1, 2, 3 offset pillars or platform supports here. Supported platforms in the corners. And I guess we could also put our middle 2 here while we're at it. We're going to put pillar supports here, 1 and 2. And then 1, 2, 3. Platform, platform. Now for this cargo receiver only, because this is 4 wide, whereas all these smelters are 3 wide, we are going to have to put some cheat platforms here first, and then we'll delete them as soon as we get this supported. So right here, 1 offset from the right-hand side here, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, lock our Z. We're going to place 1 in the front, 1 in the back, put a pillar on top of each one of these, put a platform on each one of those. And we need this to just fill in the support on the right-hand side here until we can get this placed, at which point the existing pillars will take over supporting this load. So we'll put this right here. And now this deck is supported by these pillars here along the side, so we can delete these cheat pillars. And we can resume our normal pattern. We'll take off the 2 outside smaller pillars. And replace them with a full height pillar, like in the center. So at the lower deck level, then 1, 2, 3. And again here. At the bottom, 1, 2, 3. We'll cap off these 4, like so. Then a cargo receiver at the very top. And we'll move on. So the smelters will work in a similar way. In fact, they'll be a little bit easier because we don't need to do that cheat pillar step because these are only 3 wide. So we'll go to the bottom level, go up 1, 2, 3, lock our Z. Place these 2, we'll go back down to the level of the lower deck, place our center 2.
I'm detecting increased rupture activity.
Well, that's unfortunate because I was busy. We'll see how much of this we can get done. So 1, 2, no, outside is 1. Now you got me thrown off. 1 and 1. With a platform on top. Platform on top. Then we'll take our smelter. Raise this up to here. We don't need a cheat pillar here because it's 1 tile thinner than the dispatchers. And we can place our extra tall pillars. 1, 2. Can't see it. 3. Put a platform on those. If I can reach it. Ugh. There we go. Then we can delete our outside pillars, the smaller pillars. 1, 2, 3. Supported platform right here. And right here. 1. Oh, it didn't delete. Get out of here. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Platform. Platform. Smelter. There. Then quickly, habitat. Airlock. Let's get out of here. Couple of smelters. And there we go. There's 3 stacks of 8 smelters each, plus 2 feeder drone receivers. So, we gotta get some rail connectors onto these. So along the top deck here, there's not actually any pillar support towards the middle of this section. I'm not sure why there is one there. There's not one here. But at any rate, these two middle tiles here should not be supported. So just move your rail support closer to the pillar and you should be able to place it no problem. Like so. Now let's wire this all up. Okay, there's all of our inputs. Now let's wire our outputs in the back. Whoops. There we go, and then I'm going to bring all of these into their own, let's say a storage depot V1. One, two, three. And we want a rail connector, a rail connector, and a rail connector. And we should be able to just bring each of these right in. There we go. So now we have to set every single one of these smelters to titanium. Okay. That's all of our smelters set. Now we need to assign each one of these drone receivers to a drone dispatcher. So we'll start here on the bottom, and I guess we'll go right to left since everything's going right to left anyway. So we'll do 1, 2, then 3, 4, then 5, 6. So we'll call this titanium ore RX1. We'll connect this to TX1. Titanium ore RX2. Connect to TX2. Titanium ore RX3. Connect to TX3. Titanium ore RX4. Connect to TX4. titanium ore RX5. Connect to TX5. And titanium ore RX6. Connect to TX6. All that's left now is to give it some power. Let's see just how many of these it's going to need. Solar generator V2. And if we have to, we'll stack them. Starlight obstructed. We'll place one here. And we'll see if this is enough to power this up. Not enough. Okay, so we'll need to stack this, so we have to go 16, I believe, for V2, right? Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yep. And this is a 3x3. So 6, 12, so we need to go up by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lock our Z. We'll do one here, and then one in the middle on this side. And this should go 2 in, and then 2 in. That should cover our 3x3 base here. So 2 pillars, 2 pillars, 2 pillars, 3 platforms, and then a solar generator. And that's still not enough. What's our draw? We're at 280 of 375, so we need 3 of these to run 1 stack. Can we triple stack these? Do they have the same same understacking bug? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So they can go 15 below instead of 16 below. With that one space doesn't really earn us much. Here, we'll grab one on this side. Here we go. Okay, now I want to see these work. Here they come. 1, 2, 3. Here comes our output. These are going to start chewing on this. Oh, we have to set our storage depots. Not titanium ore, but titanium bars. There's titanium ore on this line. We're receiving again, and we've not yet depleted. 3, 2, 1. Hey, it only gave us a partial. I'm curious if that's because that's all that was available. We're receiving again. And it immediately tops us up. This seems to be working. I see some yellow here. We'll probably continue like this until they get their buffers filled up. Whoa. Autosave. So there we go. So I'm going to duplicate this stack one more time. And then we'll do one more additional layer after that all by themselves. And then we'll be smelting the majority of the titanium on the map. So let me get to work. I'm going to run another experiment here real quick. I had a thought as I was ziplining back to the base to get more building materials. So we have a storage depot. and I fill this with titanium bars. We run this into a rail connector. And we run this rail connector into 2 cargo dispatchers. And we run those 2 cargo dispatchers into 2 cargo receivers. We're getting dangerously close to our heat level here. And then we run these 2 together, I guess like this. Let me go out of here into each of these. And then we come back into here. Into another storage depot right here. And then I guess we'll just send this around the outside so that it's constantly replenishing itself, because I want to see. I'm doing some mental math in my head, so at 480 items per minute, that means an item is departing and or entering its destination every 0.125 seconds. Which means that at full rail speed, it can fill up a 100 item stack in 12.5 seconds, which is less than the time it takes to go through the 20-second countdown for a dispatcher. So I'm curious if one 480 item rail is enough to feed 2 dispatchers into 2 receivers, back into 1 storage depot. If this rail here, or I guess this rail here, either one of these 2 rails here, after the junction of these 2 receivers, if these can run at a full 480 with no interruptions, are you kidding me? We just had a rupture.
I recommend finding a safe place.
Then we've gone way overkill, and we don't need dedicated 2 separate dedicated 480 rails to feed 1 of these receiver outputs, but let's see. We're gonna go titanium bars, and then we're gonna link you to, I guess, cargo dispatcher 1, and I like it tells you what's in it. Cargo dispatcher 2. Let's apply some power. Really? Why is it every time I start to run an experiment, a rupture just immediately happens? So first, let's see if I can even fill a stack within 20 seconds. It does not appear so. I can fill up to 68. Which is interesting, because the math says it should be able to do it in... Well, 1 can do it in 12.5 seconds. So let's see, this is not going to have a full stack. He's just departed. So this can arrive before this runs out. 3, 2, 1, it did not. There's going to be a small gap here. Okay, I've been watching this for a few cycles, and it does actually keep up pretty well. It's not 100% perfect, so if I was doing another like 100% RTSC generator run, I would definitely not use this setup, but this is at least like a 95% efficiency. There's only ever just the slightest, like, less than a second, even like a 1/10 of a second blip here when there's not an item available to be dispatched. But I think for just this like casual playthrough of the Update 1 tech tree, I'm okay with a 95% efficiency. So I think I'll stay the course for titanium because we've already gone through all the trouble of hooking up all of the dispatchers. But I think for wolfram and calcium, I'll just do 1 480 item rail for a pair of dispatchers and a pair of receivers. So we're not going to have... We won't have basically 960 items feeding a single pair of dispatchers. We'll have a single 480 rail feeding a pair of dispatchers. And it seems like it's more than enough, more than sufficient, with just the slightest bit of efficiency loss. So in case you guys come across this, occasionally I'll run into this situation here where deleting one of these middle platforms will delete this, even though this is fully supported by the adjacent platforms. For some reason, it marks this as being supported by this one particular platform. But if I delete this platform, replace it, and then replace the smelter in the exact same location, same configuration, I can now delete this platform without deleting this smelter. So there's some kind of bug with the structural calculation, I guess. But yeah, just go ahead and delete the smelter if it does that, and just replace it, and then you can continue with the pattern as usual. Whoops. Okay, everything's wired up there, so let's slap some more storage depots down for this. Where did you just put that? Oh. I'd love to stack them like that, but it's not tall enough. Storage depots are too tall. 1, 2, 3. Rail connector. What are we doing here? Oh, we did do a 3 wide base. Okay. I guess in that case we can upgrade to a storage V2. It'll certainly give us a bigger buffer, especially if we're going to run later down the line. If we're going to run these at like 95% efficiency, we probably want to have as big of a... Oh, this makes it... Oh, there we go. It's like 4x4. What? There we go. So we'll break these down as well. We're about to hit our thermal limit. We're going to have to do some thermal trickery here, or go unlock base core amplifiers. Would probably not be a bad idea. Where am I? I'm deep in the machine. Here we are. I'm still not sure how titanium ore is getting onto this. Did I connect this to a dispatcher accidentally? No. So how would titanium ore be getting on here? I don't quite understand that one. It's just the output of these machines. A smelter can't output a raw, unsmelted ore. Very weird. Alright, rail connector, rail connector, rail connector. Hook these up. Set these to titanium bars. Now I need to set all these to titanium bars. Okay. Now I need to get some power into this. See if we even have enough thermal capacity left over. Just enough. 984 of 1,000, which means we're not going to have enough for our last row. But let's get this one running at least. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So this will be T or RX7. Connect this to TX7. T or RX8. Connect this to TX8. T or RX9. Connect to TX9. T or RX10. TX10. T or RX11. TX11. And T or RX12. TX12. Okay, I have one more stack to make, and I think what I'll probably have to do is move that so that... Move that to the right here so that it only encompasses these 2 rows, and then we'll make another base core on this side that'll absorb the last stack here. At least until we get base core amplifiers. I think that might be just enough. Let's take a look. Build solar generator. Yeah, look at that. In fact, I may even want to move it over one more tile. But I think once we get the 1 tile gap and the rail connector in here, I think this will be outside this base core range. Let's see. Yeah, okay, that's exactly perfect. And now we'll place another base core over here. I'm going to place this just to where it's not touching any of the existing buildings. There we go, 0 of 100. So, now I should be able to place another line here with a fresh thermal capacity. Okay, there's all the machines wired. And drop in a single storage depot V2. Right here. We'll put a supported platform down just to link it. Rail connector. Rail V3. Input. Believe this is all matched up. I need a little bit of power here on the ends. We can put this... Well... We don't know what this may be put into shadow once we actually build up this stack, but for now we can put this right... There's our first set. Let's say it was right here. We'll offset this just a bit here, and we'll run a extendable walkway from here to here. Here we go, power up this row. Now we're going to set all of these to titanium bars. Bar and bar. There we go. We'll also set this to titanium bar. And our last 2 cargo receivers here. This will be titanium ore RX13. No space. RX13, confirm. And titanium ore RX14. We'll link these to 13 and 14. And here they come. And with that, we are smelting 3,360 titanium bars per minute. We'll go all the way to the end here.
Dehydrated.
You are constantly thirsty.
Tasty.
I think I just lose track of how much time is passing.
Just what I need.
Take a couple out of all of these. And I want to see all this running. There we go. 3.3 thousand titanium bars per minute. Which should theoretically be all the titanium that we're ever going to need, but I suspect there's going to be a little bit more to do in the tech tree, because this is just what's going to be needed to get to RTSC generators. So if there are other branching paths at the end, we may need a bit more, but this should be the vast majority of all the titanium we're going to need. So we did a little overkill, tapping twice as much titanium ore as needed in order to feed our dispatchers. So we'll correct course with wolfram and calcium, and we'll just do a 480 rail on the dispatch side to a 480 rail on the receive side, instead of 2 480s on the dispatch to 1 480 on the receive side. We'll take the little like 2 to 5% efficiency hit just to not have to tap twice the number of Wolfram nodes that we need. But I kind of don't regret doing that because we do have to tap, I think it's 20 pure ore nodes for unlocking the ore extractor V2s. So hitting all those pure titanium nodes will give us a lot of credit towards that. And then that also means that it's going to be easier to get all of these bars out of here because we're not going to do all of our manufacturing in this basin. One, because it's just not going to fit. And two, because we've already done that build. I want to kind of spread these things around here. So this will be our specialized base for ore smelting into bars. So we'll do our wolfram here. We'll do our calcium here. But then we're going to send dispatchers for all of these bars to other dedicated bases where we're going to make our other products as we work our way up the tech tree. So we're going to need some helium. We're going to need some sulfur for doing glass and doing chemicals and doing ceramics. So all of those bases, we'll find other places for them, and we'll play around with dispatchers and receivers to see if we can hone that down to a fine science on how to extract the most efficiency out of the dispatchers and receivers. What else did we do? We got some Zipline networks set up. We have one corporate level turned in at the very beginning to get our dispatchers and receivers, so we didn't do much unlocking this episode. We did a whole lot of exploring. I ran over most of the available map here, set up all kinds of bases everywhere. We did unlock rail V3s, which is going to be huge for getting our manufacturing online going forward. And yeah, this is the beginning of the actual build for this season, because all of this is going to be disseminated into actual factories and not just a dedicated like intermediate building materials. These are going to go all over the place. We'll divvy up where they're going to go a little bit later on. But yeah, I think that is enough for this episode. I'm sure I'm well over 6 hours at this point. So one last look here at our gigantic smelter stacks. Luckily, titanium is the highest quantity of ores that we're going to need, so our other stacks are going to not be quite as large as this. So we'll be able to speed through those quickly at the beginning of the next episode because we don't have to unlock everything. We already have everything that we're going to need. We already have most of the map mapped out with Zipline set up, so we'll be able to get to all the Wolfram nodes and the calcium nodes relatively quickly. So we should actually be able to get well underway with our factory building and making our way down the tech tree in the next episode, but this is a good foundation for all of that. So, if you're still with us, thank you for watching. If you've been enjoying this playthrough of StarRupture, hit like and subscribe. If you want to check out StarRupture for yourself, head on over to Steam and pick it up. And if you want to let me know what you think of the game so far, then hit the comments down below. But, whatever you do, I'll see you right here again in the next one. So, until then, bye-bye.